should tell me. There's not a lot there.
Yes, they
They
can.
manage that as well.
Yes, they
Okay.
can.
Yep. But I've gone and they deliberately not stock some size of this product that I want. I wanted the 3 bottles, not the 1 bottle, and pay 3 times as much for it. I've ordered it through Walmart.com, made sure it was over the $50 for whatever shipping costs, and they got shipped from New York someplace. I don't know, New Jersey. Okay. All right. Open forum questions. Anybody
I
bar
thought that's
question?
what we've been doing.
I know that's what we've been doing, but now it's official. Now we're recording.
Yeah, well, my new external hard drives, part 2, arrived. I got 3 that I simply devoted to Linux because I have so much Linux data, not so many systems. And with Windows, my Windows systems are getting to be like 100 gig because they've got all kinds of stuff in them. And so the backups are getting bigger. I only keep like about maybe 6 months worth of Windows backups, but I've got 2
How
PCs.
how big a drive are these things that you were getting to put?
8 terabytes each, but I buy them in triplicate,
Okay.
and I buy cases for them. So
Which
right now the new ones just arrived on my porch, so they're kind of aging in the living room.
do you care whether or not they are perpendicularly recorded or linearly recorded?
I consumer I consumer grade drives, which is what you get in these in these desktop drives, are not. I think they are shingled. Yeah, they
Okay.
typically
So
are
these
shingled.
are the slower ones for random access, but they're good for backup.
I actually you can get them up to 7,200 RPM.
Well, it's not a question of the speed of the disk. It is more though about how it's recorded on the disk and where the latency might be.
Yeah, I whatever the characteristics of shingled is, I think shingled actually has lower latency than the other ones.
Okay. Bob, I see you raised your hand.
My apologies for being late tonight. I've spent 2.5 hours on the phone with my favorite company, Comcast. For the last month, I've had a periodic problem. I have 4 TVs in this big house. And a couple of them would suddenly say, "Oh, we got a problem. Tighten all your connections." And that didn't make any difference. If I unplugged one of those little tiny boxes and plugged it back in, everything was fine. Last night, they all went out. I couldn't watch TV on any of those machines. The main TV that doesn't have the little box worked fine. And I went to the Comcast store and picked up replacements for those little boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of putting one of them in, it wouldn't function. And by that time, Comcast had done a test on the system, and the agent called me back. Lovely young lady. I spent an hour and a half on the phone with her. It turns out that one of the TVs actually, the cable, the coax cable had disintegrated. I didn't realize that because it's buried, it's back behind a bookshelf. And when I pulled it up, it just fell apart. So I fixed that one, and that made that one work. And then we had problems getting the third one to work. And in the process, they want you to have a new remote. So in the bedroom, those of you who are married may understand this, we have 2 remotes so that we can have remote wars. No, so that if I go to sleep before she does or vice versa, we don't have to go look for the other remote. Anyway, everything seems to be working. The gal was wonderful. She took her patient time with me, and we worked through all these little problems.
Yeah, one of the issues that you probably run if you start to have deteriorating coax is the fact that they are using a thing called MOCA type of signaling, which means they're using Ethernet over the RF medium up in the high end of the band. And if your coax is anything less than premium coax, it will severely attenuate the high end of the signal. So you may not be able to pass the 900 megahertz that needs to be used for this. They deliberately put it way up there so that it doesn't interfere with any of the cable channels that they want to try and sell you.
Most of that cabling is more than 20 years old. We've been in the house
Mine
for
is
35
too.
years.
But when I put mine in originally, most of the stuff that I have was only double shielded. And when I replaced one of my cable runs going from the basement upstairs to the second floor, I put it in quad shielded. Now for RJ6, that's probably okay. If you have a long cable run like I have from the box to the back of my house where it comes in, I've almost toyed with the idea of having them replace that with RJ11, which is lower loss those frequencies at some of those frequencies. The 900 megahertz is never sent back up to Comcast. That's just between the big box and the little boxes. But the other thing that I have to facilitate that, I also got one of these original Unity Gain Xfinity amplifiers and bought it myself rather than renting it from Comcast. And I have that in line. At some point in time, I'll have an issue with the passband for my cable modem because they're going to want to move the cable upstream to go from 0 to 72 megahertz instead of 0 to 49. And my amplifier will interfere with that. So I'll have to find a different amplifier at that point in time. But for now,
Well, anyway, my end is
still good.
okay for now. I'm not going to worry about that wiring because we're in the process of trying to figure out how we get out of this house. 36 feet or square feet is too much on 3 floors. At some point in life, your knees don't want to climb the stairs all the time. You guys have
Oh,
been.
yes. It's called knees.
Yeah.
I've got a Sound, and they're now wireless. They gave me all these little boxes to attach to the TVs as wireless. Is Comcast not going wireless like that? Because
My setup is wireless.
okay.
From room to room.
How about yours, Bob Baxter? You're still using the
Ours, we have some wireless for internet. I have both wired and wireless for internet.
Are they pushing you for the wireless for the cable TV or no?
Very, very gently. No, they've never mentioned wireless for the TV.
Huh.
Most of
What
what
do I
they're
do with all the wire? There's an open forum question. What do I do with all the wires in the house now for the cable TV? Are they useless? Can I use them for something else at all, or no?
Well, around here,
if you
we
had
have,
them, you
we
could
have
use
public,
it for a speaker.
You can
we
pull
have
all
public
those.
lighting, and every once in a while it goes out because somebody's come in and they've stolen the wiring because the copper is worth money.
Yeah, and so you can pull all the cables out of your house, but to get the optimum amount of money, you have to strip off all the insulation, leaving only the copper wire.
Understand? Yeah.
Yeah, and also the cable wiring is not necessarily a whole lot of copper.
No, it ain't.
No.
You might get a buck for a big spool of it.
Yeah, if you had a whole big spool, you might get some money. But what Comcast is doing, at least in my area, is they're trying to push everybody over to cloud DVR service. So everything's going to be in the cloud, and you don't have any real local storage.
Well, that's what the current Xfinity is doing now anyway. It's all cloud-based. Although I'm not sure how much is cloud-based and where the recording is actually done, because it seems to have a impact if I've had some pixelation that I've watched on occasion, and I haven't gone back to see whether if on the same program I was recording it, whether the pixelation was recorded on that as well or not. But I get the feeling that if my box is powered off and I had a recording scheduled, I probably won't see it.
Well,
So I think it has some interface with it.
yeah, the lowest that they let you be in my system is on standby, If it's totally off, no, it's not going to record anything.
So
But
it isn't, the controller is still involved with the recording. So
they
however
did
things,
they did swap out my DVR, and they had two of them that wouldn't boot, and then the third one worked.
wow. Yeah, that's not good. I had one that wouldn't do updates, and they exchanged it, and then I got the updates and it worked fine. So I had one false, but my Comcast store is about 1.6 miles due east of where I'm sitting. So it's pretty easy to put it in the catapult and launch it.
Yeah. Well, pretty much nothing in the Boston area is more than 5 miles apart.
Yeah. Well, they've moved the Comcast facility multiple times. And I had used to look like, okay, where am I going to take this back to? And I remember trying to get a specific unit because mine had died. And I wanted, this is back, 20 some odd years ago. Ended up going down to a Comcast facility in Elmhurst in order to pick up the Motorola units that I was using because I refused to have the Cisco units that were really bad. I tried the Cisco unit, and I used to use an external DVR, and the problem was the Cisco, the Cisco DVR of all cable box would add the protection bit on analog outputs that would cause it to stop the recording on the DVR for non-protected programs like Channel 5. Channel 5 had said, I can't record this because it's got the protect bit set. But HBO went straight through. So it was just backwards from what they really wanted to do. So I said, fine, I'm just going to change these for the Motorola units that I know worked, and ran over there and I think it was the day before Christmas Eve one year, and exchanged them and put them into service, and they worked fine for the next 10 years. But now
Well,
I'm on Cisco units now, which are basically, I'm not sure if it's actually Cisco or one of their former subsidiaries that was spun off.
well, I now there's the additional problem that the next gen signals for the ATSC3, most of those stations are encrypted now,
Yeah.
and you cannot record any of it with anybody's equipment.
Oh, so over the air you can't record it. Yes.
Not only not over the air, but even cable, you can't record.
Woo.
Even the
Well, I
cable
thought
version,
they.
the cable
Well,
versions of those channels.
how do they? Yeah, but this is over the air channels, or
Yeah,
specifically?
it's their version of the off the air channels are also encrypted.
Wow. Okay. Is that going to
So
stop Comcast from recording them? Because I know with
yeah,
Comcast, we'll demodulate it, bring it all the way down to baseband video, and re-encode it for use on their cable system at that end,
not with next gen signals.
not with next gen signals. Well, the question is, are they going to send that same bandwidth through the cable system, and then they'll have to realign their channels so that they fit?
They have had to realign channels.
Okay. This is only in Boston they're doing this right
No,
now?
it's a lot of different places. You will, if you don't have it in Chicago, you will soon have some kind of shuffling around that'll happen with the channel lineup.
Hmm. So that means I may have to get Paramount Plus after all, huh?
I don't know exactly what will happen. Comcast Cloud DVR will allow you to pretend you're recording, but it's not a real recording.
Yeah, it's their version of the recording.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's really a streaming service. It's
I mean,
Xfinity Stream.
the nice thing about some things that are recorded with Xfinity is on the channels they really want to support, they will highlight on the progress bar where the commercial is and end, and give you a fast forward through the commercials. So when
Yeah,
I've recorded something like our channel 2 and channel 5, CBS and NBC, late night talk shows, they'll let me skip through those pretty quick with an auto resume. And unless they did one of these things where they're still showing live at the same time they're trying to present some commercials, that usually works okay. On some of the other channels like Comedy Central, it doesn't hint to where the commercials are, and you have to manually fast forward through them. But it does allow you to fast forward.
Next Gen TV is more like the kind of streaming where they don't show you where the commercial breaks are, and they may or may not allow fast forwarding. Commercial skip.
Yes. Okay.
The other thing is recorders like TiVo or Silicon Dust, HD Home Run, I will never be able to work again on next
Well,
gen
it's a good thing I
signals.
didn't invest in those.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Sanford's not going to be happy.
Yeah, I know he won't be happy with that. Yeah. I'm just going to tighten this little bolt on my chair before it falls out.
I don't know if
Drops
they're
me on
out
the
yet,
floor.
but I remember reading that for the ATCS3,
Yep.
they're going to make some external tuners so that the old sets do it. But I don't know if anything's out right now.
It absolutely is. Channel Master, among others, has it.
Okay.
It's just that there are no recorders that you can hook these up to that'll work with those signals.
Well,
You
what's
could
the
get a
output of
downgraded
these?
signal. You could get
What's
a
the
downgraded signal.
Is the output still an HDMI connection?
Yeah, it's HDMI, but it's got not just HDCP but other encryption.
Uh-huh. Because I know that one of the ways that they used to get around HDMI encoded and encrypted was to buy a cheap TV, which allowed you to do this. And the design of the TV was such that you could go into a particular spot on the circuit board and tap off the native video and audio, and then use that to be remodulated to wherever you wanted, and then you could record it.
Yeah, theoretically that's not only not possible now, it's illegal.
I know it's illegal. It's just that it was a way to get to the unencrypted video and audio that people had found a way around.
What is
That is no longer possible. There are things in the cables themselves that prevent that from working. But I have a splitter which got in before the new legal requirements, and it does in fact strip out the HDCP. But I will not use that to record anything that is commercial content because I know that's illegal.
Hey, here you go. You got your dissatisfied customer.
Well, we'll have to summarize this for Sanford.
Yeah.
I think he already knows.
Yeah,
The
he probably is
about-
regretting the fact of the new version of ATSC.
ATSC 3, Next Gen TV, and HD Home Run, Silicon Dust, can no longer record that
Yeah.
in its
Right.
native form.
Right.
Somewheres I got one of the S video ones that you could plug in line that would block those protection signals out.
Yeah, all of those converters now by law have to recreate somehow or another the HDCP, or they will just put out a black signal.
Uh-huh. Yes.
But my little device, which was perfectly legal on Amazon earlier this year, handles PC output, which is what I got it for, so that I can record pre-boot events and things like bootable USB, which don't use the standard operating systems.
Right.
And normally I wouldn't be able to make any recording of it through any means I know of. I wouldn't be able to use the splitter or anything. But this splitter will allow me to do that, and I can just use the normal Windows tools. And that, again, is for things that do not have commercial value.
But I'm sure somebody's thinking a way around it as we speak.
People do live stream games that they're playing and gaming sessions, and that is not strictly kosher.
Yeah. All right. Some other questions. Did I see a hand raised earlier that I missed? No, I guess not. Wasn't sure if somebody had raised their hand. There, Sid's raising his hand again.
So why is this stuff illegal? Why can't you skip ads if it's your machine in your home?
It's a
And what
revenue
business?
stream. It's the revenue stream for the local TV station. If they cannot verify that people watched the commercials, they lose money.
And here's another one that I've noticed recently. YouTube. I apparently have no cookies allowed at the moment, and it'll bring up a blatant thing that hey, you're not going to see anything if you don't allow cookies. And the funniest part about that is after the one, two, or three commercials that it goes through, you can X out of that little window that pops up and view your YouTube video.
What happens if you have a browser that doesn't support cookies?
I don't know that there's any that don't allow it.
Well, you can severely restrict the
Yes,
cookies
yes, you
with
can
some
do
of the
that.
other ones. It's not really not allowing them, but I'm going to say it's severely restricting them.
That's right, and that's what I
Yeah.
probably have right now. And so eventually, I gotta sit down and see where I'm blocking it, and then make a decision what to do. Usually, you have an include and exclude list of what will or will not be blocked, and I can allow, say, the one YouTube to be okay and ignore everything else.
And I also be aware Google is stopping with traditional cookies, and they have a different way of doing the tracking and uh, doing the placement of whatever bits of information they want to place.
I thought they were planning to do that, but then they decommitted from it at the last moment, and I'm not sure if that ever got reinstated.
It did not in its original form, but it's there.
Yeah,
And
there's something
Firefox
different. Yeah.
Firefox does not do that sort of thing, but all the Chromium-based browsers do, unless it's been stripped out, which I don't think you could because of the way it's coded in.
Yeah. Okay.
You wouldn't have a working browser if you did.
I need to find a browser to replace an Internet Explorer ActiveX extension that only works under Win 7.
Wow.
Good luck
Yeah.
with that. Maybe compatibility mode.
Yeah. Have you
No,
tried
it has to run the ActiveX, and the compatibility mode doesn't seem to. The wrong program keeps getting launched because it's ActiveX, so it still wants to look for Internet Explorer each time I tried it.
Hmm.
And I'll have to see if there's another way around it, because I have this legacy Spico camera system, and if you want to watch the video that's been recorded or scanned, any of the real-time stuff, you have to have this ActiveX extension in order to interact with it. Either I could that, or maybe I have to find an ActiveX reverse engineering tool of some sort. Figure out what it's trying to do, and then develop a custom app to replace it. The company does not support that anymore, that particular interface, and I'm not sure what they use on the newer ones. They probably have a completely different design, because it's a type of Linux anyway, but they just intended on having that.
So is this like a web app?
It is, you have to invoke Internet Explorer with administrative mode to be able to load the screen up to let you log into the interface.
Okay.
Stanford posted a question.
I saw that, yes. He was asking, let me bring up my chat. I'm trying to do a disk cleanup in Windows 11. Could not find the tab anywhere on the disk properties. Where did I
No,
see
wait
this?
a minute. If you're talking about the old disk cleanup utility, there's two ways of doing it. You go into File Explorer, you go to the drive that you're talking about, right click, select Properties, and you'll still see the cleanup button there that you can run cleanup on.
I did not see it in the Windows 11 that I was looking at.
Hang loose for a second.
You
I
have
don't
to
think
do
they took that
the,
out.
when you do the right click, you might have to do the more to get to it.
I did
It's
see-
tools. It's tools tab. I forgot about that.
Well,
I'll
the-
tell you something that I do have. I have the search in Windows 11, 23H2, and I just put into the search box the word disk. First thing that came up was disk cleanup under system, run as administrator is available.
Yes.
What I'm saying is I didn't see the tab in Windows under disk properties.
Under
No,
disk
it's gone.
tab.
It's gone.
It's not under.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I've got 11 right here. I'm looking at, and I've got the properties of my C drive, and it gives me details. And that used to be how you got into. It goes to storage usage, and shows
Right.
you if you've got that. Uh, where it looks at each category of stuff, it is sitting out there under
Why don't you
detail.
share your desktop?
This one I can't right now because I've got it. Its internet connection used elsewhere.
I can tell you what happens if you go through properties in Windows 11. If you go through properties, I can't share this because it's a pop-up menu. Properties, when you go to disk usage, it takes you to the Windows 11 settings app. That form of it, it's called it's what they call storage sense.
Yes.
On
that's
my
what I was-
Windows 10, it's not under properties on the
No,
drive.
no, it'll be on 10. That I know.
No, it's not in the properties on my Win 10, and I can show you it's not in properties. I find it in a different place.
Yeah.
But I will share this screen. I think I can share this. I'm just going to share my whole desktop. I think will probably be better. Let's see. That's the screen.
Well, I'm on 10.
Here is here. I'm going to share this. This is the properties on the disk drive. Okay.
Yep.
The tools. It's not here.
Correct.
No,
Go back
no.
to general.
Go back to
And
general.
if I go back,
Go back to general.
cancel.
No.
Right here, I will reshare the other screen. Okay.
Yeah, if you click on details, you will go straight into the settings app
Storage.
and
Storage.
storage usage in that view.
Yeah.
You can, however, change a registry setting and get back those extra options.
So
Well,
if
I
you
know
have
of-
your device selected, up at the top here, there is cleanup under manage.
Okay.
Okay.
So that is one place that it is on 10. I don't know if it's been taken off of there
It's
because the optimize was something basically on the properties of the device as well. So
in
somewhere
10,
they put it up there as well.
in 10 on general tab, you have a disk cleanup. On 11, you have details, and details takes you to settings, as Bob Premick has said, and then you have storage sense, and it shows you all the areas and how much you're taking up in each area. That's how
Right.
that works. A workaround this whole issue.
So did they take out the ability to do disk cleanup from drive properties?
Yes.
It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't directly available. However, there is a registry setting that you can set up
Well,
where, if you hit the Shift key when you right-click on a drive, you get the old Windows 10 list of things you can do instead of the Windows 11 list, which is curtailed. And there, I can get into disk cleanup.
Do you have a link to that
Let me
topic?
see what I've got. Let me see what I've got.
But so they took it out of Windows 11. How are we supposed to clean up our drives?
with the new
With
stuff.
storage sense.
Yeah.
So Storage Sense is supposed to do this from now on?
Yes. Or you
That's
can
what
get,
they want. There's another thing you can use. You can use PC Manager, which does the same things.
right. You,
But I know there's other ways of doing it. I was just looking for native.
Yeah. I'm gonna find this. You can restore the old right-click context menu in Windows 11.
I believe at West Side, we just went through this
Yeah,
and discussed this whole function of disk cleanup, drive cleanup. And no one brought up the fact that this is not visible in Windows 11.
It's a recent change.
You probably just got upgraded to 23R2.
I don't know.
One of my machines happened this weekend. Like, what the heck is this needing two
Hold on, what?
reboots for?
Oh,
23H2.
I'm
23H2
just saying out here,
is
Harris.
Sanford,
yeah.
or an
Okay.
alternate way of getting the old cleanup to work, go press down on your Windows key on the keyboard and hit the letter R. That brings up a run box.
Okay.
Now, what you want to do is put one single word called cleanmgr.exe. Hit enter.
Oh, clean master boot record.
Clean MGR. G as
Oh,
in
MGR.
G as in GIF.
Let's not hope you clean up the master boot record. That'll be a very sad
Go ahead.
occurrence.
Go ahead. Let's see. I want to see if it works. Personally,
What I have placed into chat is Microsoft's answer to how you restore the old right-click context menu in Windows 11. And it's done by pressing Shift F10. And if you want it to be the default, you add a registry entry, which gives you what they call the legacy context menu by default.
Thank you, Bob.
And I have it set up so that if I hit Shift and then do any of the gestures that normally would bring up a context menu, a right-click context menu in Explorer, with the Shift key, it will bring up the Windows 10 version. Without the Shift, it will bring up the Windows 11 version.
Thank you.
But I think I did change the registry to do that.
Your mileage may vary. Hopefully you can find this again. Are you doing this on a other user's machine and you didn't want to install anything special on it?
No, I didn't. It's more like I just went to go and do this, and I was perplexed at like, where is this icon that's been there forever? And all of a sudden I couldn't find it. And so I did try typing in the search, disk cleanup, and it did bring up, it brought up that storage sense part, but nowhere did I find the icon. And I just tried to do this yesterday, so I didn't have a chance to really research what was going on with this.
the information I gave you for that command in a run box, that is in the Systems 32 library under Windows for 10 and 11.
Okay.
See, if you remember in July at Tips and Tricks, I was going to show how to make a shortcut, and I have several shortcuts that go to Systems 32 folder for old style ones that I can use in a standard account. I can have the shortcut say run as administrator. So when I click on it, I just put in the administrator's password, and it goes off and does whatever that job's supposed to do.
Yeah, there's a number of neat little tools that are still hiding in System 32.
There's a ton of those things out there.
They will never die.
That's right.
Well,
some
Some of them won't work anymore, but they will never die.
some of them are being replaced by PowerShell routines,
right.
Yes.
and the troubleshooters are being replaced with PowerShell routines.
Yeah. And
They do troubleshooting still?
Yeah.
I thought that was gone.
It's
Troubleshooting.
going.
Troubleshooting, I said a long time ago, was being degraded and was going to
Deprecated.
disappear. Period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I use an AI to do my troubleshooting with.
I use Device Manager.
It won't help you enough for a lot of problems.
Well, it'll show me what it thinks is broke, like it did when this USB decided to die. I think what happened is, and I'm not sure in this mouse connection, which has seen better days, and there's a pinch near the base of the connector. I believe that it short circuited the power connection and it crowbarred the USB port, and that caused it to take it offline.
Yeah, and you got to be careful because those are usually fuse protected, a little itty bitty chip on the motherboard. And if you
Yeah.
blow that, good luck trying to fix it.
Well, I wouldn't be up, but I was fortunate. I was able to, like I said, power cycle the machine at the battery out, and that seemed to bring it back. And it was a temporary thing. So I'm going to have to retire this mouse, this nice original Microsoft beige mouse. Yep, get one of the more expensive ones. Have you tried to use the same Microsoft account on more than one Windows 11 machine?
Yeah, you can have
No
up to
problem?
you can have 10, and then it'll start complaining that you've got a problem on your account that you need to take care of, and that's because you exceeded 10 machines per account.
The one thing that I haven't, that I found recently was I can't put my phone number on more than one account for the, I can use it for security, but I can't use it for the way to access your machine. So if you use your phone number in more than one place, it takes it off of one of your other accounts.
Trust me, I've got about 4 or 5 Microsoft accounts, and most of them have at least 10 machines, and I just ignore the complaint if I'm exceeding the 10. And
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, I can go up to 50 machines without a complaint. If I
But you're not putting your phone number on a different Microsoft account. You put it down in the security to help you recover your password in event of an issue. This is a second phone number or third phone number, alternate email. You can't put it as the
No,
main
yeah,
number when they first put in your account
you can
because it'll
only
take it off of another account.
right. That's true.
But I wasn't aware of that until all of a sudden it started like, what do you mean you took my account off there? Why did you stop it? Because the church doesn't have any cell phones and they want to use a cell phone to send a text message to recover. They don't do the oh, can you do voice? No, we don't do voice. We
Mm-mm.
only do text. Well, you got an AI, it should be able to talk.
Usually they give you the ability to use another email account to verify.
Well, yeah, another email account or something. I was just trying to coalesce all these machines that I may end up having to support at some point in time and have some commonality. If they sign on to any one of these machines and they have to do something like payroll, they don't have to use different accounts. They can always use the correct account. And then there's no permission problems or anything else that should go along.
Okay, that's an alternative.
Yeah, it is an alternative. Not the best, but it is an alternative. So, all right. Any other questions we got before I start the presentation? Carl hasn't said anything. Just see if
Carl
he's
passed
still
away.
listening. Okay, let me see if I can find this. That's the one I want. Good. All right. And this one happened to come up right. What is it that sometimes you bring up Adobe and it always wants to have its panel on the side, and other times you bring it up and it does exactly what you're supposed to do? I don't understand. Okay, good.
Man.
Let's go and share this.
Unless it's a different behavior when you're on Zoom.
I don't think so. I think it's just Adobe can be such a pain in the butt sometimes, and I think I froze this one at a particular older version of Adobe. So that may be why it's still working cognizantly, but anyhow, I am now using my new CCS logo. All right. Package managers for Windows. Okay. So, little bit of definition. What is a package manager? Okay. Well, you can ask AI and Google, and they'll tell you this. Windows Package Manager is a free open source tool that helps install applications on Windows devices. Keyword here is helps. It's not the thing that actually does the full install. It'll do some of the heavy lifting, but it doesn't do all of the work, and that's still retained by some of the internals to Windows itself. The one that Microsoft has advertised is called Winget, and it can be used to find new applications, install applications, upgrade, remove them, configure. It's usable, okay, and this is where it was targeted for, all these people in developers, ISVs, enterprise organizations. But most of the things that you're going to find in Winget are pretty much command line oriented stuff, okay? So Microsoft has it for Windows 10 and 11, and there may be versions that sort of look like it for earlier versions of Windows, but they're not being supported, so Microsoft doesn't really push it. It's part of the Windows Package Manager, which includes the services for installing apps. I didn't have to do anything to look it up on the machine that I had made the presentation on. It was already sitting there. So I just went into the search bar and I said Winget, and it was there.
Ed?
Yeah.
Offhand, Winget has Winget UI, but it's all
No,
been-
that's a different thing. I know, but I will get to that.
Okay.
I will get to Winget UI in a bit. You're getting ahead of me though.
Okay.
But I'm just showing you, here's the thing that comes for free and it's sitting there. And there are other add-ons to this, okay? So typically it restricts to the places you can get them from: the Windows Package Manager, Community Repository, and the Microsoft Store. Doesn't get it from any other databases unless you have gone through and done a lot of modifications. You can use a REST-based source, okay? And people are going to say, what the heck is a REST-based source? Okay, well, here's a REST-based store. Basically, representational safe transfer. So basically, it's saying we have a stateless way of communicating between server and client, such that the server doesn't need to know what the client has done last or is going to do next or has done in the past ever. And the client doesn't need to know what the server has either. So if the client goes away and comes back and asks for the same request again, the server can give it to them. That's what stateful and stateless basically is. Stateful says, oh, I knew he was in the middle of a download. I got to finish his download. No, it doesn't work that way. So they're independent. And that's the important thing on REST-based sources. And that's key to making some of this stuff done. So if it fails in the middle of a download or some section, it will restart the whole thing over again. That's the point of being stateless. So you have Winget on your Windows 10 and 11? Yes. So I just went in on a command level line utility with admin privileges and actually did some Winget commands. So I said search PowerToys, and it was the first time I'd used Winget on that machine. So it asks some questions here, and you got to answer yes if you want to go farther. And then it went and saw, oh, I have two things here in the PowerToys. One of them is on the Microsoft PowerToys, and there's an everything called Everything PowerToys. So there were two PowerToys that it came up with that it listed. And that was all that it became. And that was a pretty much milquetoast type of command. You can do simple stuff, search or whatever. You start doing installs, then you're doing something a little bit more bizarre. Okay. So here are just the list of commands that are available. And yes, it does not fit on this screen. Okay, so you got to go to the next screen and see some of the other options and logs, no logs, verbose, warn, no warn. proxy, no proxy, all kinds of stuff that can get you in trouble quickly unless you know what you're doing. And then the documentation is shown at the very bottom line of that help screen that says, here's where you can go to WinGet command help. And I did not tell it to switch. And yeah, it's help with a command line interface, which launches a window browser, a graphical browser, and points you in the middle of the Windows development document, which is currently 709 pages long and about 50 megabytes in size. And the WinGet starts on page 90 and goes up to page 203. So if you want to really read up about the command line interface, this will help you fall asleep at night. And if you want to add something to their database, it tells you how to submit package so that you can be included in their database. There are easier ways to do this. But this is what can be installed with WinGet. Third-party apps, some GitHub apps, Microsoft Store apps, and that's pretty much, it has to be part of the Microsoft approved. You can't run WinGet on certain server platforms that are multi-user in design. Server 2019-22 and Server OS without desktop experience will not play nicely with WinGet. But is there an easier interface to using WinGet? And I'm glad you asked. UniGet UI. And basically, it used to be called WinGet UI, but that's not its current name. It's UniGet UI. And it's technically not a Windows package manager, but it uses WinGet and other package managers to achieve a similar result in a graphical user interface. So firing it up, it'll tell you what you got on your machine. And this is a snapshot of what is on one of my machines. And there's a bunch of stuff in there that I knew existed and I've seen, but I didn't know I could access and just replace those particular things like Bonjour. I never knew I could just update Bonjour on the fly, even though I don't really use Bonjour. It used to only come in when you had some sort of Apple Store request was where Bonjour came from. And I used to remove it on my other machines, but then I noticed it showing up on Win 10. I'm not sure why it wanted it, unless somehow it was going to tie me back to my original Apple Store account for my original iPad mini. I don't know. iPod mini, sorry, clarify. This is small 4 gig hard drive based, yes. So it basically checked and it was ready to upgrade everything, but I said, no, I think I'll control some of these for now. And I'll basically play around with this user interface and see what it can tell me. Well, it'll let you see what the next thing it would want to install in. So if I click on something like 7-zip here, it'll tell me the details on the newer version. And it'll basically tell me what I have installed, basically what I would be upgrading to. So I'd be going from Win7-zip 2201 to 2408, which might be a little bit more significant. 7-zip is pretty much milk and doesn't really care too much, but if there was some particular thing I was depending on how an old version of WinZip worked, I'd have to make sure I saved the original install on the previous before I cranked up a new one so I can recover it. This will sort of show you what's already there, and you might get an idea where it came from so you could go back and find your original install media. Worst time I've had was when I've had something like Samsung Magician, when it updated and it didn't do the right thing. It was horrible on me, and I had to revert back to the previous version, and I ended up finding on another site the previous version. But now I'm pretty much paranoid when I see something come in. I want to make sure I save the copy of the new version I'm going to download or upgrade to, and then make sure I have archived that. So there's another page of this thing, I think. Oh, this is stuffed in the wrong spot. I'll come back to it later. This is the zip details part 2. Okay, so this is the second page of that same screen that I just had above. Version numbers, that are displayed in this might not be helpful in identifying which product it is. Like this is a Cronus 2020, but its version number says 24.8.1.38.600, I think it says. So that's the version number that's going to be shown on this screen. It's not going to be necessarily helpful for the things you're looking for. And the nice thing about WinGet UI, you can use it to upgrade individual ones. You can package a bunch of things together and make a package install for future use. One of the things down in the settings on here showed the package managers that this WinGet UI will be able to access in order to install things that you're looking for and you can't remember what repository where you got them from. So this can use the WinGet package manager, Scoop, Chocolatey, and Chocolatey is probably the one that has most of the stuff that you've been looking for. I noticed that came up more often with some of the things I was looking for. The Node.js package manager, NPM. There's also pip as a package manager. And I've not used the net.tool, but I may need to if I'm doing anything that's .NET related. And then there's two PowerShells, one 5.x and the 7.x, which is the beta one. So all of these can be utilized by this this particular GUI, UniGet UI, can use any one of these. And now I can go back to my other screen. Then one place you can look for most of these things, you can actually download a different package manager from Chocolatey if you want. This is where a lot of the legacy stuff has been parked. And I'm pretty sure that this thing ran on some of the older versions of Windows in the past, but I haven't verified that again since I didn't have a current Win 7 to go up and fire it up and see whether I could pull it down or not. But just looking at the numbers of unique packages, okay, 10,505 packages and a total number of packages of 231,402, which means some of those packages have multiple versions installed available, so you can install test versions or new versions or whatever. And it looks like they've had a fair number of community package downloads in the order of 3 billion plus. And that's basically what I had. I will need to correct this in a moment. So I'm going to stop the share right here. And while this is going here, I'm going to go in and I'm going to move that slide to the correct position. The one that's, yeah. Where did it go? That's the one, I think. Nope. Right there. Good. Slide you down. You got it installed in the wrong location. Now it's in the right location. Good. File. Save. All right. I love how the Microsoft tools say, back up this document. I couldn't find any copy of it anywhere. All right. No, cancel. Let's do this right here. Not on OneDrive. Yeah. Desktop. Good. And save it as a PDF. Save. Yes. Oh, I got to close that. Hang on a second. It's got it open, so I got to close it. Now I can do a file save as.
Who are you talking to?
Myself. I'm having an argument right now. There. Yes. Good. Okay. It has been replaced. I can do that. And now I can go ahead and share it in chat. Good. Open and share. Okay, you can grab a copy of the updated presentation as modified. And hopefully that'll point you at the right direction on some of this. There's a lot of stuff that I could go into, but if I lost anyone at the beginning, I apologize, because some of this stuff is pretty deep stuff. The WinGet UI is probably the easier of the two just to even do anything with. WinGet by itself it's good to know it's there in case you have to put something Humpty back together again. But for the most part, I don't see many people using it unless you're a experienced developer. And I would say, or if you're building a package for distribution and you want to test version specific parts of it, WinGet lets you get to the nuts and bolts. WinGet UI is already expecting those nuts and bolts to be put together for you. So, any questions on what we had? Yes, go ahead, Sid.
I always have questions. Well, have you looked at any of the executable portable packaging solutions?
I've played with a number of
Portable
them
and be able
with
to
portable
run
apps. Portable apps I've used
them?
where I put them
Portable
on a
apps
flash drive. Yeah.
specifically, though. Yeah,
Yes, I have used
portable
portable
apps
apps.
specifically. I'm talking about like VMware solution of being able to portabilize apps that then run in separate packets.
I have not tried to
Segregated
do
system.
that. In a specific VM, so you want an app that only runs inside of a virtual machine, or?
No, no. And it had nothing to act where they just bought the thing. It was done by a third party company and then they bought it. It didn't use VMware at all. Basically, what it does is it portabilizes the APIs and then lets you run pretty much anything, Microsoft Word, Office, whatever, in so that it then can be transferred around through systems.
And you do this via USB drive?
Well, you can do it through a USB drive. You can run it off a cloud storage. These days, it's more likely off a cloud storage than a USB drive.
Uh-huh. Although I found for most of the Microsoft apps, if I just use a browser and log into my Microsoft account, I am able to run the Word and the Excel copies off of cloud. And those seem to work fine, even though the machine might not have any of those things on it. So that's close to what I was using my portable apps for. But some of the things I would have used it for would be apps I didn't want to leave installed on a particular computer that I was using when I had to do more repair stuff type of things. But now about the only thing I find myself using some of those USB drives for, if they're big enough, is to create the bootable recovery image so that I can plug it in, and when the machine says I can't boot, something's wrong with the boot record or something, and just plug in the recovery drive and set fix. And then all of a sudden it's bootable again, like, oh, magic. What did you do? I had my magic USB drive with me. But then they don't realize you have to make one of these for each computer that you're trying to support.
Anybody know if Hirons is still around?
I'm pretty sure there's a Hiram, but I don't know if it's anything more than Windows XP image. I don't think they ever did a Hiram with a Win 7, although that would have been something worse. I'm going to check and see what the current version of Hiram is.
They were doing a PE version.
No, they had a PE version back. It's still 15.2. I haven't gone beyond it, so I don't think they've done anything new, because I didn't think they were able to find a low weight Win 7 one that they could put in place of the Win XP. Because it really isn't, it's sort of Windows XP, but it's not quite Windows XP. I used to use it, I could use the Hiram boot disk with some issues. I had to get the right System32 modules invoked. And I was able to use it on some machines with a an old copy of Hyperterm and the driver I needed to use with Hyperterm to talk to some of my devices. Because Windows 7 with Hyperterm, they changed the entire way Hyperterm worked with if you use the XP copy of Hyperterm and migrated it to Win 7, it would sometimes work, but it wasn't reliable. And there was a handshake, and some of the devices I was connecting to didn't like the handshake and the delay before it finished making the connection, and it would cause me issues. I was actually hyperterming through a USB device, and the USB device simulated a serial port at 115 kilobaud. And if I got connected, I was good. I could do anything I needed to do. If I didn't get connected, sometimes it would reboot the device I was trying to plug into, which wasn't good. But that's was my experience with the Hiron boot disk. So I had a Hiron boot disk plus a USB flash. I plugged that in, copied the files I needed to the Hiron virtual RAM disk, so that I could fire up the Hyperterm and do those kinds of things. But I did not actually go out and try and buy the newer version of Hyperterm for Win 7 at the time, but because I was trying to look for a generic solution that would work across a corporation, and wasn't ever really needed to go beyond that. But the current version of Hiron is still 15.2, and that's the one I recall. Yeah, I don't think it's changed. Let's see, does it have a date on here?
Most of that is real old, obsolete kind of stuff on modern systems, though some things will work just as well.
Yeah, they will. Okay. I mean, there may be some update to some of the tools and such, but I wouldn't trust any of the NTFS tools or something with the newer versions of NTFS.
Right.
I would be very wary of that.
Yeah, because those are probably back on NT 4.0 versus the current 5.
Well, I don't remember what I think when Win 10 just it would touch was Win 7 would touch Windows XP volumes. Once the Win 7 had utilized the NTFS volume, the Win XP could no longer use that volume. I think they got smart in the newer versions, and when they enhanced it a little bit, they made it backward compatible. Yes, Sid?
I'm looking online, and there's a hironsbootcd.org, which says they're friends of Hirons, and they have a Windows 11
Be
PE
careful.
version.
Be careful of that. Okay, where they say they're friends. Okay, they're both
Yeah.
in India. Okay,
Yeah,
but one
yeah.
may not be who you think they are.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen that site before, and I remember that message that you read. So I would be very careful about running anything from that site without thoroughly virus checking some of it. But some of it boots up, so it's harder to check.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see.
There's a Reddit thread in April that says Hiron's Boot CD alive again. Again, I have no idea if that's the actual guys.
Yeah, okay, there's a Reddit there. Boot CD, as long as you're downloading from the official site, you should be okay. Yeah.
My favorite, there's an Amazon page, Hiron's Boot CD USB new 2024 edition, $19.93 on Amazon.
Uh-huh. Okay. I don't know. I would have to look seriously, yeah, because I know that hironsbootcd.org, it's actually done by enthusiasts, yes, of Hiron's Boot CD. They don't say friends here. And The question is, if is it all free of commercial software, or is there something snuck in there that could be an issue? Not sure. You have to verify that on your own and make sure that you're not causing yourself undue harm on a commercial machine by downloading and using something and then getting caught. Although most of these things, you're booting up in an alternate system to be able to recover something on your machine that's dead anyway. That's why I used to have the boot CD with me and also copied most of it to a flash drive so it would boot off a flash drive as well. But that was a long time ago, and I haven't used it much since, because the systems I've been trying to diagnose usually are beyond the capability of most of what Hiron could do. But it was kind of convenient having a little bootable mini Windows XP that would boot up and you could do some things with it. But it was sort of like an XP in safe mode. That's about as close as you would say. And it couldn't run anything really of any size. And it didn't have all the services loaded, so you couldn't do too much beyond that as well. But you could do some things with it and then go from there. Why, were you looking for something equivalent to that in the in newer versions, or?
I was just curious what was around. There's a site called Alternative2.net, and they have the best Hiron's alternatives, they say, with some I haven't actually heard of before, including something called Gandalf's.
Alternatives to.
No S, just Alternative2.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Flex.
They even have one called 4D Dig Windows Boot Genius.
Zen browser. That's what I need.
I downloaded it and Microsoft popped up an error saying it has malicious code in the installer to take over your machine.
Yeah, it might. What happens when all of a sudden you trust what was I searching for? I searched for something today, and both an old version and a new version of the same thing. Oh, the Win Arrow. That's how I was looking at the Win Arrow, and there's actually two Win Arrows that Win Arrow Tweaker. There was a winarrow.tweaker.com and a winarrowtweaker.com, or maybe it was a dash instead of a dot in there. And one looked like the original website where he still had a prototype build, and the other one was the current website where the newer stuff was located. But I was kind of surprised because normally when you see two websites or more pop up for basically the same thing with slightly different naming conventions, you have to question one or the other, like which one is the real site, which one is the pirate site. Arg.
That was like some of the add-ins extensions for browsers. They forked and you had all these similar names.
Yeah, and it was kind of ridiculous too, and then that was like sometimes you would ask people would slip malware into the search for Google. So when I did weather for Barrington or something on one of these machines, all of a sudden it popped up something that was trying to do the million pop-up windows at a time. But fortunately, it was a slow enough machine I could reach around and unplug the internet connection, and then it couldn't make any more windows. Like, okay. But I ended up reporting it to Google, said, right at the top of your search tree, this thing popped up. I don't think you want it here. Yeah. Eventually it disappeared really, after they realized what was there. Something had promoted itself to the top of the list and snuck into a machine or two. Fortunately, I was able to stop it before it could do anything serious. It's just more bothersome type of malware rather than a damaging malware. But do you use any of these package managers, Sid?
I have played with them over time. I have it in the last year or two.
I
For
mean,
that, I've used some of the utilities that
okay.
will let you do updates across a group. But I haven't done. Most package manager stuff's on the Linux side, not the Windows side.
Right.
I actually run the Android subsystem under Windows, and that uses its own package manager for downloading apps and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And if you use the Linux subsystem under Windows, same thing. That will use
Its own.
a couple different package managers.
Well, I would fire this thing up on my other machine and it immediately pops up and said, you have 22 apps that are ripe to be uploaded. But I have to be careful of when some of these things get uploaded that it doesn't download the newer versions that are demanding, their fee to be paid. If it was free originally, and then when you upgrade, you're in a different class of free app where it will let you do some things, but it's less complete than the previous thing was. I think, is it CCleaner that wants to bug you about paying for a copy of this thing if you, unless you are manually doing a clean?
At this point, CCleaner has become an app desk show. They keep the latest thing they did was they took away the right to do a custom scan and clean unless
No,
you
they
have a
didn't.
paid version.
No, they didn't. That was a bug.
Oh, is it bug?
It
Okay.
said right on the pop-up.
It was a bug.
They got burned by it too, probably.
They immediately issued a new dot version, which doesn't do that.
Yeah.
I know because I used it and I had that happen.
Yeah. I mean, I still have an old copy that every time oh, you should upgrade this. You should upgrade your Cronus. You should upgrade this. Like, no, I'm happy with what I purchased. I don't need to buy a new upgrade. I don't need to push to another level of something that's going to nagging me. So I'm happy with that version. It's stable and I know what it does. Yeah, go ahead.
Totally new question, and I've probably asked this one before. I have a Windows Insider machine that's technically not an Insider machine anymore because it wasn't eligible to go to 11, but it updated to 11 by Microsoft anyway, and it stayed at 11 since it updated to it. However, here's the thing: the copy command will not work on the machine anymore. I can't copy, but I can drag and move within the same drive. But if I try to copy, it disappears. The command prompt and it just disappears away, but it never copies.
Are you sure?
On the other hand, if I go via network from one of my other machines, I can copy files off it and move them that way. But the copy command won't work on that machine.
Have you checked for corruption on that drive?
Yes. And it doesn't matter which drive, it's any of the drives, same thing. And I've also tried using Terracopy as a third party copy, and that won't run either. That fails as well.
Well, I know that the default processing of drag and drop is on the same drive or within the same computer. A drag and drop will do a cut and paste. I think it's on the same drive. It'll do a cut and paste instead of a copy or make a copy. But if you copy to a network location, your cut and paste will turn into a copy.
Right. Yeah, and I can't, if I copy from the C drive, this machine has physical C, D, E, F, and G, and no copy works. But if I drag it into a different folder on the same drive, it's fine. And if I run a copy from another one of my machines across the network, it copies fine. And I can do a move that way also. And it deletes it from the source and moves it to the new drive. But not a copy on that machine.
Wow.
That means that copy of Windows does not perform the function, whereas the other copies of Windows from the other machines will.
Yeah.
And it also means that machine may have trouble with network shares.
But it hasn't, which is, I can see and run files off other drives on that machine, and I can get to that machine from other machines.
Did you ever clear the clipboard data?
Yeah.
Okay, because that may be one thing that could be interfering with copy and paste not working.
Yeah, I've cleared, I've reset. I ran the Windows, what is it, W something get slash check that
Yeah.
checks against what the value should be, and it finishes with no errors.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Hold on. What is that?
So in other words, you did the DISM routines and the SFC scan now routines,
But yeah,
all of that.
and no errors.
Okay. And you checked the file system.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
There also is an option of doing a so-called over-the-top repair reinstall, where you use the installer, but you keep your files.
Yeah, it's an in-place
I've avoided that because, as I said, it was a Windows upgrade to 11 that's on a machine that can't really be 11, and I don't want to go to that because I could end up getting myself screwed,
No,
not able to go back to 10 and not allowing 11. So
No, it'll still
try to
work.
avoid
It'll still work as 11.
that's right.
It'll
It'll stay working. It's just a case where you probably are on a machine that could not support 11 natively. They installed it anyhow, and I have the same thing on the machine I'm on right now. And so, bottom line is, it is updatable. You get your updates like normal, but
right.
the updating in place, you have to have a version of 11 on your flash drive. You plug the flash drive in, bring up File Explorer, go to that drive, and you will see settings, and you can double click on settings. But sometimes it's looking for certain things that it's not going to find, so you may run into problems. I know I have. And so there's some issues, but I've gotten around all of them.
Did it not work with Control C, Control V?
Correct.
So it's the native copy is something is messed up there.
Yeah, and usually that's
Problem.
under a corruption, and you run first SFC space slash scan now in terminal.
Right.
If that
Yeah.
says anything but A-OK on integrity, you have to run a DISM command, and I know the whole litany of it by memory. I've used it so many damn times.
Sounds like you've had to do it more than once, Tim.
I've had to do it umpteen times because sometimes when you get your monthly update and it goes through, I find that if I run SFC, I got some corruption.
Oh,
And I've also had an instance where SFC, then DISM to repair, then you reboot, you run SFC again, and it should come out A-OK, but you still might have certain problems. So you got to run disk check on drive C space slash F as in Frank.
Right.
Those are the
And for
three things you
fix.
got to do.
Yeah, and I've run all of those. And so it's strange. I haven't pushed it any further because, as I said, I could still copy and move the files just doing it off of one of the other machines across the network. It's a little weird that way, but it works that way fine.
I had
Uh,
one thing that
I,
was sort
I'm
of,
look I'm looking at something on this in make use of. It says how to fix copy and paste not working in Windows 11. Um, it says, I don't know where I'm at here.
one thing that I was having an issue when I was trying to do something on one machine, Sid, was I happen to have a hardwired Ethernet cable into this machine, but I also had the wireless enabled. And when that was on, I had issues trying to do things with that machine. Like it was kind of bizarre. So you may want to do that type of check to make sure you don't have multiple internet connections where it's complicating things.
and well, the thing on this machine is it's running Surfshark in kill mode, which means if the VPN drops, it doesn't let anything pass.
Okay.
But
What I'm reading and make use of, it says Windows 11 comes with an improved clipboard that lets you copy multiple items to the clipboard and paste them as needed. However, the copy and paste function can stop working on your Windows 11 computer. This issue can occur because of corrupt system files or temporary glitches with Windows File Explorer. Here are a few troubleshooting steps to help you fix and restore the paste functionality in Windows 11. One says clear the clipboard data. Um,
Well, I usually have
Perform
mine
a
off.
clean
What
boot.
what they're talking about is clipboard history is on.
Uh,
That allows multiple entries into the clipboard. I always turn that off, and I haven't experienced the problem you're talking about.
where is that setting?
It's under privacy and security, and you've got to. Oh, excuse me. Now I gotta stop and think here a minute. Uh, can't remember if it's in the general or in the next setting below it. Hang on a minute. Maybe I can look it up on my
Okay.
system. But it's a case where the stupid thing, the history thing sounds great. It has a couple potential features, but I've never used them because they've never worked right for me, at least. Uh, diagnosis. Oh, wait a minute. No,
I have
that's under
settings
it's under
off.
system. I forgot they moved it. Go to your settings. Go to system and scroll down, and you'll see clipboard. And then click on that. And if it's got clipboard history on, I turn it off. That means it only has
Clip,
one entry.
okay. Clipboard history is off.
Okay, then you only have one to begin with in clipboard at any time. When you have history on, it will track a lot of what you do in cut and paste and give you options to be able to select an old one that you just did, say, 10 minutes ago and still paste it out. It can also be used in the it's a backup feature for the history, to reinstall things. And I think it may be something that is used also in recall, or they may have separated them. And recall's coming with 24H2, except your machine and my machine won't run 24H. Well, mine won't run 24H2. Yours might, as long as you have a Core I processor. If you got anything older than a Core I processor, it won't run 24H2.
Yeah, this is running one of the old A8 processors.
Kiss it goodbye. I'm on a Core 2 quad. I got to kiss it goodbye too. But I've got next to it a AMD Phonom 2 E905 processor in it, and it runs 11, and it'll probably run 24H2 also.
Yeah, this one's running 21H2.
Well, that's another possible problem. You need to upgrade to 23H2. There's a lot of ways around getting that updated. And I'm not joking. I was on the 21H2 a long time ago. I upgraded to 22H2 and I've been on 23H2.
I posted something in the chat that I found on Microsoft where he's going in on one of the answers and manually accessing the clipboard app in System 32. And maybe it has something to do there, but there's a bunch of things in there that you could look at and see if any of these would fit. Other possibilities, when I was starting to type, you said you use Surfshark. Yeah. And I started typing Surfshark and copy command, and then it repopulated with artificial intelligence on Windows 11. Maybe disabling your Surfshark and seeing if the copy command fixes itself.
Yeah, this machine is mainly used for torrents. Therefore, it's intentionally always in kill mode with VPN.
Yeah, but I mean, that would be something that you could just temporarily disconnect it, see if the copy paste worked. Then you know, well, maybe there was an upgrade that I missed along the way on this thing.
That's very likely. And 21H2 has not been updated in a very long time. That's why I say do an in place of the 23H2, and but there's a gotcha, and that is you're going to probably have to put in a registry entry to get it to work. I'm not guaranteeing that.
Right.
If it works, it works. If the setup will work from File Explorer in the running 11, you're okay. If on the other hand it balks at it, then there are things it's looking for that are requirements of 11, and there's ways of blocking that out. And it's usually the processor and TPM2. And if that machine does not have TPM 1.2, you may have to do 2 changes.
Yeah. But when I do Windows Update, even though it's on 21H, it still comes up and says you're up to date.
Yeah, hey, it'll say that in 100 years from now.
Even if you forced it, yes.
That's dead.
Yeah.
They only support each version 18 months. So you go back to 21 October and count out 18 months, and that's when you have gotten no more updates.
Yeah.
Although
The make use of
keeps updating.
Pardon?
the make use of
updating.
You got to have one of your machines muted there, Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis.
Well, I only have one.
Well, somebody's got an extra loop back here.
I'm only on one today.
All right, you're okay now.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the make use of link that I pasted in the chat. Boy, they list a whole bunch of things to try. Even the very last one, step number 9, says you can create a new local user account in Windows 11. Check to see if the problem is limited to the current user.
That's
I
another
mean, they
option.
list all kinds of different things.
That's why
It's
I
a good
say
read. I mean, there's a lot of things in here.
that's why I've said on many occasions, you got to start learning to use an AI for troubleshooting. You're not gonna, you're gonna find more and more you're gonna need to use an AI client, whether it's a Copilot, Claude, Gemini, or one of the many other type of AI clients to do troubleshooting. And usually you start off with your problem, and then you can add refinements, and it adds that refinement to the previous question and will get you closer and closer to a solution. But it's not perfect. And there's always a button there that clears out all your current answers from the AI to start fresh.
Well,
So,
you may want to do the upgrade, Sid, to the newer version because it looks like Microsoft did have some sort of issue with copy and paste on Windows 11 going into earlier parts of 2024.
Uh, Sid, if you do run into problems, Sid, you can get a hold of me. I know how to get around them.
Okay.
So that would be, try to see if you can force the upgrade and see if that will pass it. And if it does, then you may have your solution there. But that one thing that I posted there with the answers from Microsoft is you start wandering through that chain. There were some people who were really calling out Microsoft. You need to fix copy and paste because their issues were it would be working for several hours and then stop working.
See, another thing there is the highest you're going to be able to go on that machine is 23H2, which is the current version. And just next month, which is very close by, on the 14th, they'll release the 24H2. And you're not going to be able to run it on the old AMD CPU.
Yeah. Yep. Time for a new transplant.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got to retire that one, but I got so many other computers right now. I ain't worried about it. But I mean, out of two machines, I'm running the recording of the meeting video on. One will take a 24H2 and the other one won't.
Well, that's life in the big city when you're using old quad cores. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it would apply to Duo too, and anything older than the Core 2 processors will not run because it's looking for microcode in the CPU chip called pop count, POPCNT, and that's only in the Core I processors, and many of the AMD Ryzen processors also have it, but not necessarily all.
Well, the question is if you buy a new machine, that's always like, what's the status on the current 13th and 14th generation of Raptor Lakes? Are all buggy?
Well, they're buggy, but it's there's supposedly a paper out, and I don't remember the details right now. That what the problem likely is, and my suspicion is for some of these people, they are trying to do overclocking on the gaming, and that's what's killing it.
Maybe it's because they're trying to overclock a non-K processor, but they said they were having problems with the K processor. And if the K processor was affected, it is designed to be overclocked,
Right.
and that's a bug.
I'm aware of that as far as that goes because I use like i7 K processors.
Yeah.
But I usually don't overclock. But I know a lot of gamers overclock anything and everything they possibly can, including graphics card GPUs, the memory. I mean, they ought to go make their own company and make their own parts as fast as humanly possible that can be made, and then they won't have to overclock. And they'll
Yeah.
make billions, maybe trillions of dollars.
Well, like I said, if they get their act together.
Well, Intel's having lots of problems because of that, and
Yeah.
it's hurting their shares as well.
Yeah.
So
So,
if they don't get that problem cleaned up, and they're not going to go back and make the 13th chips. The 14th, they might make a new version of that because that's still in production. But they better have it all fixed by the 15th, which is probably coming up here in the fall here.
well, unless they still have problems, and then it'll be 14.2.
Yeah, well, however they want to work it.
Yeah, but a lot of those chips aren't plugged in. They're soldered in, so they're
I
not going to
know.
be able to be
I'm
changed.
aware of that. They can't change it. They can send out new chips so that new ones are still able to use a 14th generation chip. I don't
Hmm.
think they're going to get a 13, and that way until they switch over to the 15 chip, who cares? They'll make a new machine, and maybe somebody's got to recall all the older 14s and 13s and scrap them. I don't know. I don't
I
remember the
was I
details.
was looking for replacement machines that I could use for my church, and I was thinking, well, I shouldn't have any problem with a Ryzen 5 based chip. Then I started looking around, and not all Ryzen 5s are supported by Windows 11.
That's correct. But
Yeah,
here's the kicker. Okay,
yeah,
if you got a desktop, old style, you
yeah.
may have a TPM slot that can have a plug-in, but there are umpteen different versions, so you got to get the right one. If you're on a laptop and it's got the Ryzen 5, or you've got a commercial, a consumer grade desktop machine, you want to get the Ryzen chip that has PP I think it is, or something like that. And the most you may need on that machine is a BIOS update that allows you to activate a pseudo in the CPU chip TPM 2.0. I've done it. But
Okay.
if the processor ends with a G, forget it. I know those won't support it.
Well, I was wondering why those particular refurbed machines were much cheaper than the other ones. And then I said, I wonder, does this support Windows 11? Oh, it doesn't. That's why it's $160.
Well, and that's a real possibility, and that's not a joke.
Yeah.
I had to research that too, and I knew about the Intel issue, so I started looking at the Ryzen because I got a couple, not very many, and
Hmm.
that was the thing that I came up with. If you've got non-business class machine that you're trying to upgrade to a Ryzen, say 5, you got to
Hmm.
get the right one, or in a business machine, it will probably have TPM 1.1, which is the minimum, or it'll have TPM 0.2. And either one will work.
Well, I was looking for, like I said, first I'll just look at the other machines that were available, and I found some, they're out there running eighth and ninth generation of Intel.
Right.
And I thought, well, those might work too.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
will
for
work.
at least for the next 5 years or so.
I'm using 8th and ninth and 10th gen,
Yeah.
and they're all working fine with 11. up through 23H2. And I
Faulty
presume
microcode.
24H2 will run too, but you won't get the AI to work.
Yeah.
And I don't
Bob,
think,
was the microcode able to be uploaded to the chip?
no.
There is a fix now which does change something on the motherboard,
Okay.
Well,
and it changes how the voltage is regulated.
well, I do
okay.
know pop
I
count,
believe it might even be a BIOS setting.
pop
okay.
count goes back to 1966 and was initiated by NSA, and then it got dropped somewhere along the line, and then right around the time of AMD Phonem 2s beyond, and Intel Core I processors all have the microcode pop count.
We were talking about two different things.
Pop,
What I put into chat and then Ed replied to was the overheating issue with the 13th and 14th gen chips.
Yeah.
What Tim was talking about is the TPM and the various microcode implications of that.
well,
Yes.
C24H2 on 11 is going to want to see pop count microcode instruction. It goes straight into the CPU to find out if that code is there. If it's not there, 11 won't even install. If it's there, it'll run, but you may not still be fully compliant. You do, there is supposedly a requirement for TPM 1.2 minimum on 11, unless you do a registry hack that makes it a 11 unsupported. I've been playing with this for a couple years now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think your answer, Bob, is the one that I was concerned about on the 13th and 14th with the microcode issues. That's
Yeah,
the one I think I read.
the way you deal with those microcode issues is in the operating system, you can have a microcode patch. Both Windows and Linux have that capability. It's part of the OS kernel that will do that. But there also is a way to do a firmware change, and I believe that modifies the BIOS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Bob. Have a good one. Other Bob.
Yeah, Bob B.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else here tonight. What else? Anybody else got any other questions to raise?
Oh, and the other thing that should be said about damage due to heat buildup or over voltage,
Yes.
once it occurs, it's permanent and you can't fix it.
Okay. Well, not that I normally overclock my machines. I like to let them run as cool as possible. Unfortunately, this machine just loves to run hot, and it's a design defect of it. It always likes to run it at least, right now it's as cool as it normally gets, 67 degrees Celsius. And it frequently goes up into the mid 80s. So,
Yeah, that's
and
hot.
then the fan kicks up high and it makes some more noise and cools down for a while. Like, why don't you just run the fan fast all the time and run it at 30? Can't do that. But again, the price of this machine was right. It was $300. What can I say? And then, so, all right. So if we overclock, you definitely, if you burned it out, it's your fault. You're paying
Yeah.
for the replacement.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it because that's physical damage.
Yeah.
And it may even do things like damaging the thermal paste, damaging various, the attachment of the chip to the motherboard. Those are all things that can burn if you really badly overheat a CPU.
Right.
Can
So,
it start a fire?
Tim, do you normally recommend
Can
putting
it
in
catch
Microsoft
fire?
Effect?
Not likely, but There may be circumstances under which you can get a little bit of spark or flame
It's not
from
like
burned
it's
out.
not like a pager then with explosive in it, I guess.
No, no,
No,
they did
it's
not.
not that bad.
They did not short out the lithium batteries to explode. That
No.
was a red herring.
Yeah.
Israel intercepted some of those shipments that they knew were going to go to those locations and implanted them with explosives.
Right.
Both them and two-way walkie-talkies.
Right.
Because I know a lithium battery can get hot and catch fire, and it can maybe pop a little bit, but it's not going to explode, blowing a hole in the table. No,
And killing
No.
that
people
required more incendiary devices and high explosives.
But how did they get him to go off all at the same time? You know, that's I think the amazing thing. You know?
No, that's not amazing at all. It's a pager. They did a group call to all pagers. Boom, with this
Really?
code.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's easy to do.
Oh,
They've had
wow.
that since the 80s when they had pagers for the first time. They could send pagers to a group and they just send out one message and it goes to those pagers. They all decode it. They all, if that they picked it up, they light up, boom.
Wow.
Yeah. It's part of the original group call type of concepts. And
Wow.
two ways, I'm not sure how they did it with the two ways, but I suspect with newer two-way radios, they may have had some sort of either capability to compromise a machine either through some sort of internet connection. Sometimes they would allow internet connections to some of these devices for firmware updates in order to upgrade your two-way radio or something. Or they put in a Bluetooth thing and they were able to compromise it through Bluetooth somehow. Yep.
So is it a bug or a
Amazing.
feature?
It's a feature. It's a way of reducing terrorists with electronics.
Oh, and also if you have trouble hearing your pager, it makes it easier to hear it when it goes on.
Yeah, I think I just got terminated. Yes.
Hey, Terry Moy, you're old enough. You can go over to Lebanon there and teach them how to do smoke signals.
He's going to pass on it.
Wow.
Well, once your pager blows up, you will be sending a smoke signal.
Yeah, there are terrorists located here. Thank you very much. Try
I
your
didn't
dinner.
think there were that many pagers still around. I used to do
they
a pager
had
before
those-
the
okay.
cell phone days.
The fact that they had pagers that did have lithium batteries said that's a new pager that I immediately said, because all the pagers I ever used either used alkalids or NiCads. Never had a lithium battery pager ever. Yeah. Even when they had the battery packs, and I had the big flip open with the keyboard pager. I had one of those for a while, two-way pagers, and yeah, that still had NiCads too.
Yeah, I think what one theory was that half of the battery pack was explosives.
Well, that would be enough volume to do what they were trying to do. I mean, yeah, it doesn't take a lot. I mean, of a high explosive for something like that.
Yeah.
They
And-
I
didn't
mean, you're talking maybe 2-3 grams. That's
Yeah.
2-3 grams of flash powders in M80.
Yeah,
And
it
high
would have
explosive,
it would have to be something that even a bomb sniffing dog wouldn't detect, though.
Well, you
Yeah,
also,
there are things that they could have used.
they
Yeah.
did say on tonight's news, this has been 15 years in the planning
Yeah.
stages.
Wow.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Wow.
I don't know if bomb sniffing dogs could actually smell a low explosive like flash powder, because that is powdered metal, powdered aluminum, powdered magnesium, and something like a chlorate or a perchlorate. And you just need a wire through it as a fuse and anything of 3 grams or less is considered confined. And if it's in a small container, it can do damage.
I guess the only way for them to go over there these days is carrier pigeons.
No, like I said, they intercepted the supply chain. So they found some guy looking for the low price on Alibaba or something like that. Was ordering it through a local guy in Hungary, and that they just tied into that. Said, "Oh, we'll compromise this shipment because we know who's buying these things."
Mhm.
Yeah. So, it probably took a very, very elaborate sting to be able to do this to get to the manufacturer, or they set up a pseudo manufacturer that would do business with them. That it could have been a non-existent company that, because they're busy denying that these pagers ever reached and went through Hungary to get to Lebanon. So they may have come through a third party shipper of some sort. Yeah. Somebody compromised them. But they had to do a lot of compromisation. They just didn't put the explosive in. They also put in the code to reprogram them to do what they wanted it to do. And that's probably more difficult than putting the explosive in the first place. So interesting. So if I'm available next month, I'm not sure. I may have an issue, but I'm trying to get it moved off, and hopefully I will still be able to meet next month. But other than that, I think we're good. Any other things for the good of the cause?
Well, thank you for everything, Ed.
No problem. Okay, Tim, you can shut down the